My name is Catherine and I'm 37 years old. I never thought family betrayal could cut so deep until I saw my sister Emma's social media poll about my daughter. What's worse, her crooked hair or her nasty attitude? I stared at my phone in disbelief, my hands shaking. After my divorce from Robert 3 years ago, I've been raising Allison alone, pouring everything into being both mom and dad. Now this. Before I tell you how this nightmare unfolded, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had family drama that left you speechless. Trust me, this story might make you rethink who you share your family photos with. Growing up, Emma and I were as close as sisters could be despite a 3-year age gap. I was the responsible older sister, always looking out for her, braiding her hair before school and defending her against neighborhood bullies. Yet beneath our bond ran an undercurrent of competition that our parents unintentionally fostered. When Emma brought home an A, my parents would remind her that I had gotten straight A's. When I made the basketball team, they celebrated Emma's position as cheerleading captain with greater enthusiasm. These small comparisons planted seeds that would grow into a garden of resentment as we matured. Still, we remained close through high school and college. I met Robert during my sophomore year at college, and we married shortly after graduation. Emma was my maid of honor, crying genuine tears of joy as she delivered a touching speech about sisterhood. 2 years later, when I gave birth to Allison, Emma was the first person I called after my parents. She held my daughter with such tenderness that I was convinced their bond would be special. For several years, everything seemed perfect. Robert and I bought a small house in the suburbs. I worked as a marketing coordinator while he climbed the corporate ladder at a financial firm. Emma graduated and pursued a career in public relations, her natural charisma and social skills making her a perfect fit. She met Craig at a networking event, and their whirlwind romance culminated in a lavish wedding that made mine look like a backyard barbecue in comparison. Then came the fractures in my seemingly perfect life. Robert grew distant, working later hours and traveling more frequently. The arguments started small over bills, household chores, parenting decisions, but escalated until the day I found messages on his phone that confirmed my suspicions of infidelity. The divorce was messy and painful, leaving me with primary custody of Allison, a mountain of legal bills, and a heart that felt permanently cracked. Through it all, Emma appeared supportive, offering a shoulder to cry on and occasional financial help when things got tight. But I couldn't help noticing the subtle shift in her demeanor, a certain satisfaction in our reversed fortunes. While my life had fallen apart, hers continued its upward trajectory. Craig's investment banking career skyrocketed. They bought a stunning colonial home in the most exclusive neighborhood, and Emma's Instagram following grew as she curated a feed showcasing their picture-perfect life. To make ends meet after the divorce, I took on a second job. Mornings at the marketing firm, evenings waiting tables at a local restaurant. Weekends spent helping Allison with homework and trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. The exhaustion was bone deep, but the alternative was losing our modest home, the only stability Allison had left. As Allison entered her preteen years, the sweet little girl who once couldn't sleep without her stuffed bunny began morphing into someone I sometimes struggled to recognize. Mood swings, eye-rolling, and door-slamming became regular occurrences. Her once meticulous appearance grew increasingly disheveled as she experimented with her identity. Her naturally curly hair, which I'd lovingly cared for since she was a toddler, became a battleground. She either refused to brush it or tried amateur straightening techniques that left it damaged and uneven. "It's just a phase," my friend Rachel assured me. "All kids go through it. Don't take it personally." But Emma took notice, her comments becoming increasingly pointed during family gatherings. "Have you considered taking Allison to my stylist?" she'd suggest, running manicured fingers through her own perfectly highlighted bob. "Sharon works miracles. She could really help with that situation, or 13 is such a difficult age. Craig and I have been reading about positive discipline techniques. I'd be happy to send you some articles." I'd smile and nod, swallowing the retort that bubbled up. After all, Emma had no children of her own, just a theoretical expertise gleaned from parenting books and childless friends who considered themselves authorities. But maintaining family harmony seemed more important than defending my parenting choices, especially with our parents growing older and increasingly reliant on our united support. What I didn't realize then was that Emma's seemingly helpful suggestions masked a growing obsession with her social media presence. Over the past 2 years, she had transformed from casual Instagram user to aspiring influencer, her followers multiplying as she shared glimpses of her curated life: spotless home interiors, exotic vacations, designer outfits, and intimate authentic moments that were anything but spontaneous. I remained largely oblivious to this digital evolution. Between working 60-hour weeks and navigating the stormy waters of raising a teenage daughter alone, I had little time or interest in scrolling through social media. My own accounts lay dormant, updated perhaps once every few months with a holiday photo or birthday celebration. This disconnect would prove to be my greatest blind spot in the family drama that was about to unfold. The first clear warning sign appeared during a Sunday dinner at Emma and Craig's house 2 months ago. They had recently completed a kitchen renovation that had been exhaustively documented on Emma's Instagram, and this dinner was essentially the grand reveal for family members. "Everything is just gorgeous," our mother gushed, running her hand over the marble countertop that probably cost more than my annual salary. "Craig gave me complete creative control," Emma preened, shooting an adoring glance at her husband. "The designer wanted to go with granite, but I insisted on Calcutta marble. It's all about the veining, you know." Allison, slumped in her chair with her hair partially covering her face, muttered something inaudible. "What was that, sweetheart?" Emma asked, her voice saccharine. "I said it's just a countertop," Allison repeated, louder this time. "People are starving, but sure, let's all freak out over rocks." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. I placed a warning hand on my daughter's knee under the table. Well, Emma laughed after a moment, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Someone's developing quite the social conscience, but perhaps we could work on expressing our opinions more graciously, don't you think, Catherine?" Before I could respond, Emma had pulled out her phone. "Let me just capture this moment, our first family dinner in the new kitchen." She began directing everyone into position, ranging us like props in her personal photoshoot. When she reached Allison, she hesitated. "Honey, maybe run a brush through your hair first, and try to smile, just a little." Allison's face flushed red. "Why don't you just Photoshop me like you do everything else?" she snapped, then stormed off to the bathroom. Emma turned to me with an exaggerated expression of concern. "Catherine, have you thought about getting her some help? That kind of hostility isn't normal." "She's 13, I replied, trying to keep my voice level. "Everything's intense at 13, and she's sensitive about her appearance right now." "Clearly," Emma murmured, still holding her phone. I noticed with unease that she hadn't stopped recording during Allison's outburst. When I checked my phone later that evening, I saw that Emma had posted a series of perfectly filtered photos from dinner. In the family group shot, Allison was noticeably absent. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Emma's social media presence increasingly featuring glimpses of our lives without permission. A candid shot of Allison slouched over her homework at their dining table, captioned "tutoring session with my niece." A video of Allison's awkward attempt to help serve dessert, where she accidentally dropped a slice of pie, with a laughing emoji as the only comment. Each post received dozens of comments from Emma's followers on "Teenagers are the worst. Girl, you have the patience of a saint. This is why I'm sticking with fur babies." When I confronted Emma about posting photos of Allison without asking, her response was dismissive. "It's just family stuff, Catherine. Everyone does it. Besides, I'm helping Allison by showing her the importance of image management. Do you know how crucial social media presence is for college applications these days?" "She's 13, Emma. She doesn't need image management. She needs privacy and respect. Please ask before you post about her." Emma sighed dramatically. "You're being overprotective. This is why she's so sensitive. You shelter her too much. But fine, I'll be more considerate." I left that conversation feeling uneasy but hopeful that Emma would respect my wishes. After all, beneath our differences, we were sisters who had always looked out for each other. I couldn't have been more wrong. The subtle digs continued. During a family picnic, Emma loudly proclaimed how brave Allison was for embracing her natural look when my daughter showed up in simple jeans and a ponytail. At my parents' anniversary dinner, she created an elaborate before and after TikTok of my mother's makeup application while pointedly suggesting Allison might want to learn a few techniques. Each time, I felt the tension building, but each time, I hesitated to create a bigger conflict. Our parents were getting older. Dad had recently been diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's, and Mom was overwhelmed with his care. Adding sister drama to their plate seemed selfish, so I swallowed my concerns, had private conversations with Allison about ignoring her aunt's behavior, and tried to limit our interactions with Emma to larger family gatherings where the focus would be diluted. In retrospect, my reluctance to establish firmer boundaries was my greatest mistake, one that would soon lead to a family explosion I couldn't have anticipated. The day I discovered the poll started like any other Thursday. I woke at 5:30 am, packed Allison's lunch while she grudgingly got ready for school, dropped her off with a reminder about her afternoon math tutoring, and arrived at the marketing firm by 8 o'clock. The morning passed in a blur of client calls and campaign planning, and by noon I was more than ready for my brief lunch break. I rarely had time to check social media during work hours, but as I unwrapped my sandwich at my desk, I decided to quickly scroll through Instagram to see if my cousin had posted photos from her new baby's homecoming. 3 minutes into mindless scrolling, a post from Emma stopped my heart. There on my screen was a split-screen image of Allison. On the left, a candid shot of her looking particularly disheveled, hair uncombed and frizzy, mouth caught mid-word in what appeared to be an angry expression. On the right, Allison with her arms crossed, rolling her eyes dramatically. Above both images, in playful animated text, "What's worse, the crooked hair or the nasty attitude?" Vote in my story. The caption read, "Real talk, parenting a teen even as an aunt isn't all Instagram filters and heart emojis. Sometimes you need a sense of humor. Who else is dealing with the joys of adolescence? My sandwich forgotten." I frantically tapped through to Emma's story where an actual poll was running. Hundreds of people had already voted, with nasty attitude currently winning at 63%. The comments under the main post were even worse. "All I would die if my daughter looked like that in public. Someone needs to introduce that child to a hairdresser and some respect. This is why I'm never having kids. Hard pass on the teen years." A wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to rush to the bathroom, barely making it into a stall before my meager lunch came back up. Shaking and sweating, I slid down against the bathroom wall, my mind racing with questions. How could Emma do this? When had she even taken those photos? How many of her 15,000 followers had seen my daughter publicly humiliated? My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Call me ASAP. Have you seen Emma's posts?" With trembling fingers, I called her from the bathroom floor. "Catherine, I'm so sorry," Rachel said when she picked up. "This is completely out of line." "I just saw it," I managed to choke out. "I can't believe she would do this." Rachel's hesitation on the other end of the line was palpable. "Catherine, this isn't the first post." "What do you mean?" "Emma's been posting about Allison for months. Little digs, unflattering photos, always framed as funny and observations or parenting real talk. I thought you knew. I thought maybe you'd given permission since it's family." The bathroom stall seemed to shrink around me as Rachel described various posts I'd never seen, comparisons of Allison's school outfit choices labeled fashion fails, snippets of normal teenage conversations reframed as attitude problems, a particularly cruel series called "If Looks Could Kill" featuring Allison's annoyed expressions during family events. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered. "I honestly thought you knew," Rachel repeated. "Your sisters." I figured it was some weird family dynamic I shouldn't get involved in, but this poll, it's gone too far. Someone needed to make sure you'd seen it. After hanging up, I sat frozen for several minutes trying to process this betrayal. Then with sudden clarity, I knew what I needed to do. I returned to my desk, sent an email to my boss claiming a family emergency, gathered my things and walked out. As I drove, my mind created a catalog of evidence, screenshots of the poll and comments, Rachel's confirmation of previous posts, memories of Allison's increasing reluctance to attend family events. I wasn't just a concerned mother overreacting. This was deliberate. Ongoing public humiliation of a child, my child, by someone who should have been protecting her. By the time I pulled into Emma's driveway, my hands had stopped shaking. The initial shock had crystallized into something harder and clearer, pure, focused rage. Emma's face registered genuine surprise when she opened her front door to find me standing on her perfectly manicured porch. "Catherine, what are you doing here in the middle of the day?" I pushed past her into the Immaculate's foyer, not trusting myself to speak until we were inside. The house was silent. Craig would be at work, and their cleaning service had clearly just finished, judging by the lingering scent of lemon polish. "Delete it," I finally said, my voice low and controlled. "Delete the poll. Delete all the posts about Allison and issue a public apology." Emma's expression shifted from confusion to defensive irritation. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and thrust it toward her, the offensive poll displayed on the screen. "This and apparently dozens of other posts humiliating my daughter that you've been sharing with thousands of strangers for months." A flash of something, guilt, concern, crossed Emma's face before she composed herself. "You're being dramatic. It's just social media humor. Everyone posts about their family." She is a child, Emma, a 13-year-old child who's already struggling with self-esteem issues, and you're inviting adults to vote on what's worse about her, her appearance or her personality. Emma walked past me into her expansive living room, settling onto a pristine white sofa. "Honestly, Catherine, this is why Allison has problems. You're so oversensitive about everything, and you've clearly passed that trait to her." It was a joke. My followers thought it was relatable content. "Relatable?" My voice rose despite my efforts to remain calm. "Making my daughter the butt of your jokes is relatable content? Using her insecurities to get likes and comments from strangers is acceptable to you? You're not on social media, so you don't understand how it works," Emma said, examining her manicure. Being authentic and sharing real moments is how you build an engaged following. My parenting and lifestyle content has been performing really well. I've even had a few brand inquiries. The casual way she discussed exploiting Allison for her social media growth made my blood boil. So my daughter's humiliation is a career opportunity for you? That's not fair. I've helped Allison more than you realize. Do you know how many of my followers have teenagers going through the same awkward phase? They offer advice, solidarity. If you'd ever bother to read the comments. I've read them, I cut in. People calling my daughter dirty, disrespectful, a nightmare. Adults laughing at a child's expense. Your followers aren't offering help, Emma. They're participating in bullying, and you started it. Emma stood up, her calm facade cracking slightly. This is ridiculous. If Allison is being bullied, it's because you've failed to teach her basic social skills and personal grooming. I'm simply documenting what everyone in the family already sees but is too polite to mention. Your parenting is creating a troubled kid. The accusation hit like a physical blow. My parenting? You don't have children, Emma. You have no idea what it's like to raise a child alone after having your marriage fall apart, to work 2 jobs and still try to be present for every school event, every heartbreak, every triumph. That's exactly the problem, Emma shot back. You use single motherhood as an excuse for everything. Poor Catherine, so overworked, so put upon. Meanwhile, Allison runs wild with no boundaries, no standards. Someone needed to show her there are consequences to presenting herself like that in the world. And you appointed yourself judge and executioner, without even discussing it with me? Would you have listened? You never take criticism well, Catherine, you never have. Remember when Mom tried to suggest Allison needed a stricter bedtime routine? You practically bit her head off. The whole family walks on eggshells around your parenting choices. I struggled to control my breathing as decades of sibling dynamics crystallized into this moment. This isn't about parenting philosophies, Emma. This is about you deliberately humiliating my child for internet clout. It stops today. Or what? Emma crossed her arms, looking suddenly more like the defiant little sister from our childhood. You'll throw another tantrum, cut me off from my niece. Good luck explaining that to the family. The front door opened before I could respond. Craig walked in, surprise registering on his face as he took in the scene, his wife and sister-in-law clearly in the middle of a heated argument. What's going on? He asked, setting down his briefcase. Emma immediately moved to his side, her voice taking on a wounded quality. Catherine is attacking me over some harmless social media posts. She's saying I'm a bully for sharing family moments. Craig's protective arm went around Emma's shoulders as he frowned at me. That seems extreme. Emma loves Allison. Everything she posts comes from a place of caring. She created a public poll asking strangers to vote on what's worse about my daughter, her hair or her attitude. I said flatly, how is that caring? It was a light-hearted way to address typical teenage issues, Emma insisted, tears now forming in her eyes. I was trying to show Allison that everyone goes through awkward phases, that it's normal. Catherine is twisting everything. Craig's frown deepened. You know how Emma communicates, Catherine. She's built a supportive community online. Maybe instead of attacking her methods, you could appreciate having another adult invested in Allison's development. The united front they presented made it clear I wouldn't make progress here. My sister had crafted a narrative where she was the caring aunt, the reasonable adult, and I was the oversensitive, overreacting mother. Delete the posts about my daughter, I said, gathering my purse. All of them, or the next conversation we have will include a lawyer. Emma gasped. You would sue your own sister over Instagram posts? I would protect my daughter from anyone who hurts her, I replied, even family, especially family. I left their house with Emma's accusations and Craig's disapproving look burning in my mind. The drive to Allison's school was a blur, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I arrived just as the final bell rang, waiting in the pickup line with a practiced smile frozen on my face. When Allison slid into the passenger seat, I immediately knew something was wrong. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her shoulders hunched forward protectively. What happened? I asked, maternal alarm overriding my own emotional turmoil. Nothing, she mumbled, staring out the window. Can we just go home? I pulled out of the school parking lot, debating how to bring up what I'd discovered. Before I could formulate the right words, Allison spoke again. Did you know? Know what, honey? About Aunt Emma's posts about the poll. Her voice cracked on the last word. My heart sank. I just found out today. How did you? Mia showed me during lunch. Her older sister follows Aunt Emma. Allison's voice was small, broken. Everyone was laughing, showing each other. Some kids took screenshots. I pulled the car over, unable to drive with the weight of this revelation. Allison, Kai, I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was posting about you. I would never have allowed it. Allison finally turned to look at me, tears streaming down her face. It's not just today, Mom. It's been happening for months. Every time we go to a family thing, every time she visits, she's taking pictures and videos, making fun of me. Everyone at school knows. They follow her just to see what embarrassing thing she'll post about me next. The full impact of Emma's betrayal hit me then, not just the public humiliation, but the private suffering my daughter had been enduring alone, too ashamed or protective of family peace to tell me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, reaching for her hand. Allison shrugged, looking exhausted beyond her years. You're always so stressed about work and money, and she's your sister. I thought maybe this was just normal, that I was being too sensitive like Aunt Emma always says. In that moment, I realized that in trying to shield Allison from my adult problems, I'd left her vulnerable to a different kind of harm. I'd been so focused on providing financial stability that I'd missed the emotional warfare happening right under my nose. This is not normal, I said firmly. What she did is wrong, and it stops today, I promise you that. As we drove home in silence, I began mentally preparing for the battle ahead. This wasn't just about inappropriate social media posts anymore. This was about my daughter's sense of safety, her trust in family, and her understanding of what healthy relationships look like. I had failed her once by not seeing what was happening. I would not fail her again. The next morning, Allison refused to get out of bed for school. I can't go back there, she insisted, pulling the covers over her head. Everyone saw that poll. Jordan Miller printed it out and taped it to my locker. My immediate instinct was to march into the school and demand action against this Jordan character, but I took a deep breath. More reactive behavior wouldn't help either of us navigate this crisis. Okay, I said, sitting on the edge of her bed, you can stay home today, but we need to figure out a plan going forward. By 9:30 am, I'd received a call from Ms. Patel, the school counselor. We've noticed Allison has been increasingly withdrawn over the past few months, she explained, and now this absence. Is everything all right at home, Ms. Reynolds? The genuine concern in her voice broke through my carefully constructed composure. Before I knew it, I was explaining the situation: Emma's social media campaign, the devastating poll, the bullying that had apparently been happening at school without my knowledge. I see, Ms. Patel said when I finished. Unfortunately, this type of cyberbullying involving family members is becoming more common. The line between sharing and oversharing has become dangerously blurred. What can I do? I asked, feeling more helpless than I wanted to admit. For starters, document everything. Screenshot states the impact on Allison. Second, I'd like to meet with both of you to develop a support plan for Allison at school. And third, you might want to consult with someone about your legal options regarding the unauthorized use of a minor's images. After hanging up, I called my boss and requested an emergency personal day, something I'd rarely done despite the challenges of the past few years. To my surprise, his response was cool. This is becoming a pattern, Catherine. First yesterday's abrupt departure, now today. The Wilson campaign is at a critical stage. It's a family emergency, I explained, trying to keep the desperation from my voice. My daughter. We all have family responsibilities, he interrupted, but we also have professional ones. Any team members I can count on. The implied threat hung in the air. After disconnecting, I sat at my kitchen table, the weight of potential professional consequences adding to my growing mountain of concerns. But one look at Allison's bedroom door, still firmly shut, confirmed I'd made the right choice. Some crises couldn't wait for a more convenient time. With a fresh cup of coffee for courage, I settled at my laptop and began the painful process of documenting my sister's betrayal. I created a folder and methodically took screenshots of everything I could find. The original poll, now with over 2,000 votes and hundreds of comments. The previous posts Rachel had mentioned, the growing trail of digital breadcrumbs showing Emma's pattern of using Allison as content fodder. What I discovered sickened me. For nearly 8 months, Emma had been crafting a narrative about Allison as the troubled, difficult niece and herself as the patient, wise aunt intervening where the clueless mother me had failed. There were outfit critiques disguised as fashion advice, recordings of normal teenage mood fluctuations framed as concerning behavior issues, even a series of side-by-side comparisons showing Emma at 13 poised, smiling, impeccably dressed versus Allison now always caught in unflattering moments. Midway through this documentation process, my phone buzzed with a notification. Emma had posted again an artfully composed selfie showing her looking thoughtfully into the distance, captioned, "Family is everything, but sometimes love means having difficult conversations." To anyone hurt by yesterday's post, it came from a place of genuine concern, not judgment. Those closest to us need honesty more than they need cheerleaders. The non-apology had already garnered hundreds of sympathetic comments. Don't apologize for being real. You're just trying to help your niece. Some people can't handle the truth. As an aunt myself, I totally get it. Sometimes we see what parents are too close to notice. My phone began ringing with calls from family members. First my mother, then my cousin Beth, then even my father, who rarely used his cell phone. I let them all go to voicemail. Knowing the narrative had already been shaped, Emma would have contacted them first, positioning herself as the victim of my overreaction. When I finally listened to the messages, my suspicions were confirmed. Catherine, it's Mom. Emma told us about your disagreement. I think you're being too sensitive, dear. She's always been so good with Allison. Hey Q's, it's Beth. Look, I know Emma can be a lot sometimes, but threatening legal action, that's extreme, don't you think? She's family. Catherine, my father's voice, gruff with disapproval. Call your sister and apologize. This family doesn't need more drama. By early afternoon, I felt completely isolated. The family had largely rallied behind Emma. My job was potentially at risk, and I still had no clear plan for helping Allison return to school or process this betrayal. When my phone rang again, I almost didn't answer, but seeing Rachel's name gave me a small spark of hope. How are you holding up? She asked without preamble. Not great, I admitted. Emma's turned the whole family against me. Allison won't come out of her room, and my boss is implying my job might be at risk if I take any more time off. I saw her post, Rachel said, classic manipulation, making herself the victim while still doubling down on criticizing Allison. Have you checked Allison's social media accounts to see how much of this she's been seeing directly? I hadn't even thought of that. With Rachel still on the line, I used my laptop to log into Allison's Instagram account, something I had access to as part of our family technology agreement. What I found there made my stomach lurch. Dozens of classmates had tagged Allison in screenshots of Emma's posts, adding their own cruel commentary, direct messages filled with taunts, a fake account named Crooked Hair Girl that had started following her 3 months ago. Rachel, I whispered, this is so much worse than I thought. I'm coming over, she said decisively. You shouldn't be alone right now, and frankly, neither should Allison. After hanging up, I sat in my quiet kitchen feeling like I'd failed at the most fundamental aspect of parenthood, protecting my child. While I'd been working extra shifts and worrying about mortgage payments, Allison had been suffering through a campaign of humiliation orchestrated by my own sister and amplified by her peers. The digital evidence laid bare before me represented months of pain I hadn't noticed, questions Allison must have been too ashamed to ask, tears she had likely shed alone. In that moment of clarity, I realized this crisis point wasn't just about Emma's betrayal or Allison's immediate suffering. It was about what kind of mother I wanted to be, what kind of example I wanted to set, and what values our small family would stand for moving forward. With that realization came the first glimmer of resolve that would eventually lead us toward healing. Rachel arrived with reinforcements, legal-sized notepads, a laptop loaded with bookmarked cyberbullying resources, and enough Chinese takeout to feed us for days. Her practical approach to crisis was exactly what I needed to move from paralyzed victim to active problem solver. Allison, I called softly, knocking on her bedroom door. Rachel's here with dinner. Would you join us just for a little while? To my surprise, she emerged, eyes puffy but dry, and silently took a seat at the kitchen table. The three of us ate in companionable silence for a few minutes before Rachel gently steered us toward action. I've been researching, she said, opening her laptop. There are actually laws about posting images of minors without parental consent, especially when it causes harm, and most social media platforms have clear policies against bullying and harassment. Allison picked at her low mien. It won't matter, and Emma will just say she's family and has the right to post whatever she wants. That's not how it works, I said firmly. Being family doesn't give her the right to hurt you, and I need you to know something important. I had no idea this was happening until yesterday. I would never have allowed it. I know, Allison said quietly. I should have told you sooner. We both made mistakes, I acknowledged, but that stops now. From this moment forward, we face things together. No matter how busy I am, no matter what's happening, your well-being comes first, always. Rachel outlined our options: reporting the content to the platforms, sending a formal cease and desist letter, meeting with school administrators about the related bullying, and potentially seeking a restraining order if Emma continued her behavior after clear boundaries were established. After Rachel left, Allison and I stayed up late, curled together on the couch like we used to do when she was younger. In the soft lamplight, we had the most honest conversation we'd had in years. "I thought if I told you it would make things worse," Allison confessed. "You and Aunt Emma would fight, and then everyone would blame me for causing problems." "You didn't cause any problems," I assured her. "Adults who should know better did." Some of the things she posted, they made me hate myself, Allison whispered, like when she compared her school pictures to mine and asked her followers to vote on who was going through an uglier phase. Everyone voted for me, hundreds of people. My heart broke anew with each revelation, but I forced myself to listen without interrupting, to really hear the depth of pain my daughter had been carrying alone. "I need you to know something," I said when she finished. "There is nothing wrong with you, not your hair, not your attitude, not your style or your interests or anything else about you. You're growing and changing and figuring yourself out, and that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing at 13. But what if Aunt Emma is right? What if I am a mess? Then you'd be a perfectly normal teenager," I smiled. "But more importantly, you'd still be worthy of respect and privacy and kindness always." We fell asleep on the couch that night, and in the morning I woke with newfound clarity and determination. Over breakfast, I outlined my plan. "First, I'm going to draft a formal letter to Emma demanding she remove all content featuring you and issue a genuine apology. Second, we're meeting with your school principal and counselor to address the bullying. Third, I'm going to have a hard conversation with my boss about needing flexibility for family reasons. And fourth, we're going to find you a therapist to talk through all of this with." Allison nodded, looking relieved to have clear next steps. "What about Grandma and Grandpa, and everyone else who thinks you're overreacting?" "I'm going to talk to them too, but honestly, honey, their opinions aren't my priority right now, you are." That afternoon, I composed the most difficult letter I'd ever written. With guidance from an online legal resource, I crafted a cease and desist letter to my own sister, detailing the specific posts that violated Allison's privacy, the documented harm they had caused, and the legal consequences that could follow if she continued. The formal language felt strange when addressing someone I'd once shared bubble baths with, but the distance it created was necessary. I sent the letter both electronically and via certified mail, then blocked Emma's number and social media accounts, a temporary measure to give us space to heal without her immediate reactions or manipulations. The meeting with Allison's school was surprisingly productive. The principal, Dr. Martinez, took the situation seriously, implementing immediate consequences for the students who had participated in the bullying and organizing a grade-wide digital citizenship assembly. "Unfortunately, we see this kind of thing more and more," he told me, adults modeling inappropriate social media behavior, then being surprised when kids follow suit. My conversation with my boss was more challenging. I requested a meeting and laid out the situation honestly. "I understand the company needs reliability," I said, "but I need you to understand that my daughter is experiencing a serious situation that requires my attention. I'll make up the hours evenings and weekends, but I need flexibility for the next few weeks." His initial resistance softened somewhat, though he made it clear that my position could be impacted long-term. It was a risk I was willing to take. The hardest confrontation came when my parents showed up unannounced at our house that weekend, determined to fix things between their daughters. "This has gone far enough," my mother declared, settling uninvited onto our couch. "Emma is beside herself. You've always been too hard on her, Catherine." "Have you actually seen what she posted about Allison?" I asked, opening my laptop. "She showed us some perfectly normal family photos," my father grumbled. "Nothing worth this drama." I turned the screen toward them, displaying the infamous poll and its cruel comments. Then I scrolled through the collection of posts I'd documented, the fake account targeting Allison, and finally, the school incident reports detailing the related bullying. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. I had no idea. "Emma only showed you what supported her version of events," I said quietly. "She's been systematically humiliating Allison online for months, presenting herself as the savior aunt dealing with a problem child and an incompetent mother." My father, never a man of many words, stood up abruptly. "This stops now. I'll talk to Emma myself." "No," I said firmly. "I appreciate your concern, but Allison and I need to handle this our way. What we need from you is support for our boundaries, not intervention that could make things more complicated." The conversation wasn't easy. Decades of family dynamics and my parents' tendency to smooth over conflict rather than address it directly made for a tense few hours, but by the time they left, something had shifted. For perhaps the first time in my adult life, I had stated my needs and my child's needs clearly, without apologizing or backing down. That night, Allison sought me out in my home office where I was catching up on work. "Mom," she said hesitantly, "I think I'm ready to go back to school on Monday." "Are you sure? We can take more time if you need it." She shook her head. "I'm still scared, but I don't want to hide anymore, and I don't want Aunt Emma to think she won." I pulled her into a fierce hug, amazed by her resilience. "You're the bravest person I know, Allison Reynolds." "I get it from my mom," she said, and for the first time in weeks her smile reached her eyes. 6 months later, on a crisp fall Saturday, Allison and I sat at our favorite coffee shop sharing a chocolate croissant and planning our weekend. Her curly hair, now grown out and properly cared for with products specifically designed for her texture, was pulled back in a stylish half-up style she'd learned from YouTube tutorials. The haunted look that had lingered in her eyes through the summer had finally faded. "Ms. Patel says I should consider joining the peer support group at school," she mentioned casually. "She thinks I'd be good at helping other kids deal with bullying." "I think you'd be amazing at that," I agreed, feeling a surge of pride. "You've come so far in how you've processed everything." The journey to this point had not been easy or straight. Emma had initially reacted to my cease and desist letter with indignation, calling it an extreme overreaction and doubling down on her narrative of being the concerned aunt. But when my parents and several extended family members confronted her with the full evidence of her actions, her position became untenable. Under pressure, she had removed all content featuring Allison and posted a brief, somewhat perfunctory apology. Our relationship remained strained, limited to occasional family gatherings where we maintained civil but distant interactions. Craig had eventually reached out privately to apologize for his role in enabling Emma's behavior, explaining that he had only seen the curated version of events she had presented. The most significant healing, however, had happened within our small household of two. Weekly therapy sessions had helped Allison process the betrayal and rebuild her self-confidence. The school's swift action against the bullies, combined with Allison's own courage in returning to face them, had gradually shifted the social dynamics. While she hadn't become suddenly popular, she had found a small group of loyal friends who appreciated her quirky humor and creative outlook. For my part, I had made difficult but necessary changes to create more space for active parenting. I'd negotiated a partially remote position at the marketing firm, allowing me to be home when Allison returned from school. The restaurant job had been replaced by freelance design work I could do during evenings after Allison went to bed. Our finances were still tight, but the reduced stress and increased time together had proven worth every penny of lost income. "Do you ever miss how things were before?" Allison asked suddenly. "With the whole family, I mean, before everything with Aunt Emma." I considered the question carefully. "I miss the family I thought we had," I answered honestly, "but that wasn't real. What we have now, relationships based on respect and boundaries, that's more authentic, even if it's sometimes more complicated." "Dad called yesterday," she said, watching my reaction. "He wants to visit next month." My ex-husband, having heard about the situation from mutual friends, had tentatively re-entered Allison's life with phone calls and birthday gifts. I'd kept my promise to support whatever relationship Allison wanted with him, working through my own complex feelings in private therapy sessions. "How do you feel about that?" I asked. She shrugged. "Okay, I guess he seems different now, but I told him he has to respect that you're my primary parent. That was important to me." I blinked back, unexpected tears. "You were incredible, you know that?" "I had a good teacher," she smiled. "You didn't let anyone push you around, even when it was really hard." The lesson hadn't been one I'd intentionally set out to teach, but it had perhaps been the most valuable. By standing firm and protecting Allison, even against family pressure and potential professional consequences, I had demonstrated that boundaries weren't selfish, they were essential for healthy relationships. The experience had taught us both difficult but necessary truths: that family ties don't guarantee respect or kindness, that standing up for yourself isn't the same as creating drama, that healing isn't linear but comes in waves of progress and setbacks, and perhaps most importantly, that a family of two could be complete and strong in its own right. As we walked home, Allison linked her arm through mine, a gesture of affection she had recently returned to after months of teenage physical distance. "I've been thinking about getting my hair cut," she said. "Maybe something shorter for summer." "Whatever style you want," I assured her. "It's your hair." "I know," she nodded confidently, "but I value your opinion." The simple exchange represented everything we had fought for: Allison's autonomy and self-confidence, my supportive guidance without control, and the trust that allowed us to share openly without fear of judgment or betrayal. Later that evening, as Allison worked on a school project in her room, I found myself scrolling through recent family photos. The contrast between these genuine smiles and the manufactured perfection of Emma's social media facade couldn't have been more striking. We weren't a perfect family, far from it, but we were authentic, resilient, and fiercely protective of each other. I've learned that sometimes the hardest choice is setting boundaries with family, prioritizing your child's well-being over keeping the peace, admitting when you've missed important signs are ultimately the ones that led to the deepest healing and growth. The road hasn't been easy, but watching Allison reclaim her confidence and joy has made every difficult conversation, every sleepless night, every sacrifice completely worthwhile. If you're facing similar challenges with family boundaries or online behavior, remember that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Standing up for your child doesn't make you difficult, it makes you a good parent. And sometimes, the family you build through intentional choices and clear boundaries can be stronger than the one you were born into. What boundaries have you had to set with family members to protect yourself or your children? Have you ever had to make tough choices between family harmony and doing what's right? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in navigating complicated family dynamics. Thank you for listening to our journey, and remember, you deserve respect, especially from the people who claim to love you the most.